Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Dr. Fantastic Interviews. I'm very proud to interview my favorite cousin, Adam. And Adam is a small fish in a big pond because he's into trading, making money by buying and selling and what have you. I have no clue how that works, but he was telling me a little earlier, and that's why I decided to do an interview, of how it's working, because the market just dropped more. One of the biggest drops in history, right, Adam?
Yeah, it's been pretty scary. I have been watching it every morning, and I normally trade equities. I stopped trading the NASDAQ a couple of months ago just because under normal conditions it was too fast. And ever since Apple went to the Dow 30, something happened to the NASDAQ, and it's just very unreasonable, and the movement isn't for somebody as small with a modest account as I have. So I moved over to the Dow Jones in the futures contracts, and ever since we started the poisoning of the market with what's going on, with the virus, it started off slow and little bit of losses each day, and then it got worse and then the Dow Jones got unreasonable and too fast to trade, and the movement was, just untradeable again for somebody like me. So I moved to the S&P, which usually takes a lot to move it one way or the other. There's a lot of money trading it, so it's very liquid. So when you really need something fundamental to move it one way or the other, and it takes a lot of times, it takes a long time to to get it to go in one direction, and now that's been contaminated. And so I tried gold, and it was good for about a week, and starting this week, gold, which usually moves against equities because it's a safe haven, precious metal, and it's a hedge for a lot of investors, it's actually starting to go in the same direction as equities, where it should usually, where you usually expect it to go the other way, and it's erratic. So I've moved to crude oil, because even though it's been selling off with everything else, it's very smooth, and as long as nothing's going on in the Middle East, like a war or an explosion or a bombing or terrorism, it's usually pretty tradable.
So on a daily basis, you're buying and selling multiple times during the day by watching it go up and down. Is that what you're doing?
Oh yeah, I could be in as fast as less than a minute and back out again, and then waiting for the next trade setup, whether long or short, and get back in once I see something that once I see the trade setup that I'm waiting to see, that I've learned to get in at that point of time, then I could be in again. And I could be in for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I could be in for a half hour. I'm never in overnight because I don't have that size of an account. But I'll just give you an example of what happened today with oil. It sold off all day. It had some movement back up where you could get long, but you had to be careful because, depending on how many contracts you have, you could have been, it could have flipped on you and gone short again, and you got to have your stops in. That's the number one rule. But towards the end of the trading day today, like after 12:15, the buyers came in and they ran it back up again from about $19 and change to about $23. So that's every dollar oil moves in the futures market. That's 100 points or 100 ticks, it's $1,000.
So did you make some money
they
today?
wait. The big boy, yeah, a little bit, but like I said, I didn't get back in where the machine, when the machines got back in. I think I told you about the high-speed machines and the algorithms.
Well, that's only it's all computer controlled. If there's an earthquake in Ecuador right now, in a millisecond, they're going to sell off whatever is affected by an earthquake, like a gold mine, let's say, or whatever. So that
Right. So yeah, and the experts know they're always watching the market. So when they see something like that happen, or like an OPEC report. Like today was oil inventory. Every Wednesday, oil inventory report comes out, whether the inventory is up or down is what usually drives the shotgun of crude oil as soon as that report comes out. Sometimes it takes a minute or two for the big boys to figure out which way they want to go, and if you're a little guy, you don't want to be in it right when the report comes out. You want to wait so you can feel out which direction it's going in. But yeah, conditions like that usually push it one way or the other.
So you're doing this full time?
Yeah, well, I'm home all the time. So yeah, I got my desk and my 4 monitors, and like I said, I got to be careful because I've blown up many accounts in the past, and I'm trying not to do that anymore.
Yeah. Now, your dad was a stockbroker, but he was. You're not doing stocks. You're doing trading.
No. Stocks are really different. I mean, a good way to figure out in these current market conditions, a good way to tell whether or which way the market's going to open the next morning is to watch stock futures overnight. And the Asia session opens at 3 o'clock our time. It's probably 6 o'clock Eastern time, and then another 5 hours back there in Hong Kong. And you really get a good idea, especially now, which way things are going to go the next trading day, because they're trading our markets after 3 o'clock here, and then Europe opens at midnight our time. And so it's real fast. It's normally slow price action. During those hours, it's like a normal 6:30 open here because of what's happening. So you can watch the movement. It's not, you're not watching Apple or IBM or Bank of America move, but you're watching the futures that are going to probably dictate what will happen once the market opens here in the U.S. So a lot of times I'm up late, and a lot of times you get nice, smooth movement, stair-stepping, which is what every futures trader looks for, because it means really good support on the upside and really good support on the downside, or resistance on the downside. So a lot of times the nighttime is a good way to trade when our markets are just too fast here at the 6:30 open.
Well, how long have you been doing this for?
8 years.
8 years, wow. Is it very stressful for you?
Yeah, it's stressful, it's excruciating, it's frustrating, it's mind-numbing at times. It can be exciting, but the best traders don't feel any of that. The best traders, and believe me, the best traders, when they started trading, I can't tell you how many times they were probably that close to giving up, because 95% of the futures traders don't make it. So those really, really good traders today, under normal conditions, I'm not talking about now, because right now anybody could lose their shirt, but the really, really good traders don't feel any emotion at all.
Well, they know it goes up, goes down. One of the smartest guys I ever met was a guy from Austria. He graduated college at 16, and he was a real smart guy. And all he would do is pork bellies. All he would do is pork bellies.
Oh, right, like Trading Places.
Yeah. Well, I guess.
Movie. Yeah. Well, you know what? And there's something to say for that, because if you try to, like, I have 4 monitors, right? And when I first started with the live room that I subscribed to, these 2 guys are talking the whole time, and they're telling you what they're doing, but they're teaching you to fish. They're not teaching you how to eat, right? So they're not just there for you to okay, here's exactly where I'm getting in, and it may work out or it may not. They're teaching you their way of trading. And when I first started trading with them, I was watching too many screens, and I was listening to everything they were saying. Like, okay, the Russell just came down 30 ticks. It should come up and roll over at 29.50. And if you're looking at NASDAQ, the NASDAQ should come back a little deeper. And then it switched to crude oil. Watch oil because it's doing this. Oh, gold, there's a great setup set up right there. It's impossible. So going back to the pork belly guy, I've been back and forth trying to train myself to watch no more than 1 screen, at 2 at the most, because you'll get confused, you'll get frustrated, you'll get mad at yourself for missing something, and it's just absolutely impossible to be everywhere. And believe me, these 2 guys that I trade with, they're not doing that either. One guy loves crude oil and gold, and he stopped trading equities because the movement is just impossible. The other guy, who's a little bit more aggressive and more experienced, his whole career has been trading. He'll trade an equity instrument or 2, but he trades gold and sometimes oil. So these guys, they know their instruments.
It sounds like a gambler. It sounds like you're the life of a gambler. That's and I've known a lot of gamblers in my life. What's the most you've ever made in one day?
Well, it's not gambling, because gambling, you have no idea what's going on with the players on the sidelines, and there could be bad calls, and there could be weather, and there could be mistakes. Trading there's an approach to trading. You watch for certain setups, and if you stick to your rules and you're patient, they are usually you're 70% successful.
Well, if you play craps and you play the pass line and you're patient and and all the money that comes in, you put it back out because it's not your money anymore. It's the house money. Then it's very successful. Craps. If you don't.
But craps or poker or blackjack, whatever, you're putting your fate. You don't control your fate. Trading stocks or whatever, you got your stop in, so you can get out any time.
Oh, okay.
If you bet 30 grand on a hand of blackjack, you can't pull back and say, well, you know what, I don't feel good about this hand after all, because you're showing a king.
Well, yeah, if you could always put in stops, that's just limiting your loss, I guess. But so what's the most and what's the most you lost? Well, high and low. Give me high and low.
The best day I had was like 700 and change.
In 8 years, the most you made in one day was $700?
Yes.
And what's the most you lost in a day?
More than that.
More than that. Gambling! Come on!
Well, no. See, it's not gambling because, believe me, there's emotions involved. And when emotions take over, you lose control of yourself. And so, you know me, I'm Irish, I'm high strung, I have a temper, and and those aren't really good ingredients for futures trading. There's people that learn it a lot quicker than other people, who are cool and you know, don't panic and look at a $200 loss like, okay, let's be patient and wait for the next setup, versus I got to get that back. I'm getting in right away again, and I'm hoping that it goes in my direction. We have something called a hope trade. A hope trade is when you add to your position and it's going against you. Okay, we're not investors. We're traders. There's a big difference. So when you own stock or a fund, mutual fund or an equity traded fund, and you're down $2,000, let's say in your 401k, you know, it's not panic time. You can add to your position and you're not going to see that money until you retire anyway.
Right.
So there's a big difference. But, you know, it's like when you say you're gambling, I kind of like equate that to people that criticize people who short the market, because they're hurting and they're causing the market to drop, like all these people making money, you know, with these all these short movements.
Well, yeah, isn't everyone betting right now or shorting the airline stocks right now?
I'm sure a lot of people are, but what I was going to say was that's the wrong attitude. That's not true. When people say, "Oh, I don't believe in shorting. I don't believe, you know, going short," because you should always be long. You don't have a market without people going short.
Right.
Case in point, the circuit breakers, you know, that have been stopping action the last all week, off and on all week.
Right.
You have to have buyers. Even when the market's crashing 3,000 points a day, and when there's no buyers, you have to halt trading.
Right.
So you have to have sellers.
I've been telling my wife all the time when she used to watch the market all the time, because she has a lot of money in the market, you know, in S&P right now. And I say, you know, when it goes down 1,000, the rich people buy and it goes back up 1,000. I mean, it's a roller coaster ride, and that's how people make money, on the roller coaster.
That's what's happening this week. You've seen these $3,000 drops, and then investors have been stepping in the next day to push the market back up 1,000 points, like yesterday, only to see it roll over again today, 1,300 or 1,400 points again. Those are intraday. A lot of those traders are intraday traders that are taking advantage of an oversold market.
Right.
Like I told you about oil today.
Yeah.
But a lot of that is movement back up. In any given day, 1,000 points are investors, people that are telling their brokers, you know, I want to get in this because it's so cheap,
right,
only to see it sell off again. So we're far from knowing where the bottom is. And like I said,
how low can it go in theory? I mean, can it go down to 10,000 or 5,000? Well,
I mean, getting back to where we were talking about before, I think once extreme measures have passed and we start seeing the results from the federal government, I think you're going to see a leveling off.
Well, because they're saying it's at the level when Trump took office, and of course it's been only going up since then, and it was at a high, you know.
That's stupid, because that's not. That's true. The numbers say that's true, and it is true, but that's not what anybody should be talking about. You know, this isn't like the preparedness is he's a lot to blame for that. He's not to blame for the whole stock market crashing. And I don't care about that, and nobody else should really either. The thing that people should be concerned about is not panicking and getting out of their retirement funds, or certainly not day trading this. And if you didn't sell a penny like me, starting 3 weeks ago, you know, you're here.
Right.
There's
when
nothing
you sell,
do about it now anyway.
When you sell, you lose. If you stay in it, eventually goes back up. It might take 5 years to go back up, but it's eventually going to go back up again, and you didn't lose. Be patient.
It's not going to take.
Don't panic.
Yeah.
Don't panic.
The unknown is the enemy. Of course, the virus is the enemy, but the unknown of the statistics is also the enemy. And the fact that you don't know if you have it, it's a novel disease, and we're far from a vaccination, and hopefully sooner than they're saying, but that's what I'm really hoping for. But
now that you're on the novel coronavirus COV, basically, if you put heat up your nose, it can burn. If you have some in your nose right now, it'll burn it and it'll melt it. So heat, hair dryer. I use a stove. Just breathe in the hot air because you don't get those flu. It can't survive in the heat, and that's why you get it in the winter.
Essential oils. Get a bottle of eucalyptus oil and just have it in your hand all the time.
You talked to
and
Leslie?
When you come out of it, yeah. Well, I had it. I already had it. No, I mean she didn't. She reminded me of it, but I had some.
Yeah.
And don't put it in your nose, but smell it, and keep. It clears out your sinuses. It's a good feeling too. I mean, you should do it all the time.
But does it have a heat thing? Because the heat is what kills the virus.
Yeah, you don't want to burn. Yeah, she told me don't take your finger and rub it inside your nose.
Or does it have a heat
because
sensation?
it will burn.
It will burn.
It'll burn your skin.
Okay.
Just smell it. Just put it up to your nose.
And smelling it has a heat sensation to it. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Well, it's a cold heat.
Okay.
Right. It's real super cold. So.
Well, Adam, I want to
smell
thank you for that dissertation on the market. I mean, if anyone doesn't know about it, they certainly learned something today, and that's what my show's all about. Is from different points of view. Everyone has a fantastic story, and basically you gave our audience one, and I want to thank you for that. And everyone listening, share this with your friends. But more importantly, go to my radio show. Listen to that once a month. But my YouTube is blowing up because I've got some fantastic information from people from all over the world sending me positive and reality on the situation, the coronavirus. Everybody like, subscribe, listen. Thank you, Adam. And everybody be fantastic.
And be safe.